Hello. Welcome to our walk-in clinic today. My name is Lee, as in Watkins, and we also have Lee, as in Ingham, and Aaron, as in Ripper, joining us today. We are going to discuss some of your questions and problems and resolve some of your queries today at the walk-in clinic. So please do feel free to submit your questions and observations. I will be manning the chat. So please address them to me. So we don't have pre-prepared presentations or scripts. We will be giving real-time answers. If you can use the chat function to submit questions, topics, or scenarios, we will respond to them. And we'll also have a Q&A session after that. Please feel free to engage. I'll give a little bit of an intro. So Lee Ingham has been implementing Monday Solutions and working in CRM for 8 years. And he is very knowledgeable about optimizing workflows and driving efficiency. Aaron has a background in customer success and support, and he has been working with Monday for 5 years. And he is very excellent and very good with people. Why are you laughing?
I love that. Thanks.
It's always a little funny to have other people introduce you, right? You're like,
yeah, I never know how quite to take it. So
I understand. You can just say thank you.
Thank you.
And then a little bit about myself. I'm a certified Monday.com trainer. I have been doing various forms of teaching for an embarrassingly long time. Let's shave a couple years off my age. But I've been working with Monday specifically for a little over a year. And I will be hosting today. We'll give a little bit of time if people want to submit a question. And I will also hand over to our speakers if they want to talk a little bit about maybe some of the common problems or questions that we get. So Lee, are you happy for me to hand over?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So nice to see you all. Welcome to the webinar. So I've had a lot of experience over a number of years now with Monday.com and different other CRMs, really focusing on Monday.com, and it's been an enjoyable ride. And I've actually seen it change and grow from a really basic board system where it was just literally some tasks with a status column and a person column and a time column. And you could do a couple of nice little views and stuff like that there, but now we're talking about there's lots of big solutions that we can actually build into here. So working with project management or working with CRM, even just my sort of generalized sort of tasks, and a lot of the questions that I get.
Okay, so Lee, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sure.
We have a query. Can you add an item through receiving an email?
Oh, yeah. So Aaron, do you want to take it, or should I take it? Or
you go for it, mate. Yeah, take it away.
Yeah. So that's one of the great things that we can do within Monday, and this probably goes back to how Monday kind of originally worked, right? So let's take a use case here. Let's take I'm working in a support IT team, and I've got a Monday board which is going to be a list of jobs or requests for certain IT use case for problems or that needs resolving, and I don't have things like Jira or anything like that. But Monday's boards is a task-based system, right? So one of the main things you can do, and one of the early things you could have done before, was a Monday board itself does have an email address. So if I was to have a board called support requests, we could actually use that email address to actually create new items. So I would, as an organization, pass out this email address as part of the contracts for people that are working with my systems or my solutions. And whenever they have a ticket, they can just email that email address with a subject, with some context within the email. That will create a ticket or create an item, in this case on my Monday board. It can then go into the top, like not unanswered group on my Monday board, and then we could start using automations to move it through its various different stages. We could assign it to people. If we've got their email address, which we will have, that sort of thing can come through. We could then send responses on that. But it's quite interesting, that question, because there is, I don't know if anybody's heard about it, but there's the Monday service solution that's going to be coming out very, very soon. So maybe if you need that sort of functionality for that particular type of activity that you asked about there, then there is a solution for it. But there's also kind of that basic way where I send an email, it creates an item. Yeah, good question. Sorry, Lee, you're on mute.
Classic. Also, sometimes I'm unsure if you're referring to me or to yourself when you say Lee. Thank you so much for that really detailed answer. Aaron, is there anything you wanted to add, query, discuss on that
Well,
topic?
one thing I was just going to say, Lee, is somebody has popped into the chat and asked actually if we can show anything around that email to board.
I think it would be very useful to have a visual for that. Yeah.
I don't know if you've got anything available, you could quickly hop on and show people.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll set that up and you keep talking.
Cool. So I'm just going to read the question out loud. Mur, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says, I have a master training board for Monday with many items. I have it as a template so that each individual user gets their own board. Okay. I used Carl's method for connecting all the items in the template to the master board. Cool. Okay. So like a high level, low level. However, on the master side, I don't have a one-to-one match in the connect columns. Is there a way of getting that without going through every item and connecting them by hand? There will be no new items created. Okay. I think I've definitely seen similar questions to this, and I've definitely worked on something similar. Aaron, do you want to switch off, or Lee, if you're already working on showing something?
I think Lee was just going to show us that email functionality because I think in the chat somebody asked.
Oh, sure. Okay. So we'll show the email functionality and then we will address Mur's question.
Great. Yeah.
Lee, do you want me to share your screen?
Am I sharing it now? Can you see my screen?
I can swap so that it shows. Are you happy for me to do that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll turn it on. So there's manly, as in womanly. Well, as in the opposite of womanly, the arch nemesis of womanly.
You never know.
The kindred spirit of womanly. Anyway, so Lee the male is going to show us what he means by adding items through email, and then we'll go on to Mur's question.
So I'll use that use case for the IT solution. So in my demo system here, I'm just going to go and create a brand new board very quickly. Just call it tickets or requests, and I'm actually making sure that the items that I create are called tickets, right? Because I don't want them to be called items or things or pulses or anything like that. So keep that context in place. So just let that build. Okay, so keeping it really, really simple. This is my board that's then going to facilitate me to be able to manage and maintain tickets, but allow my customers to email in. So when we look at any board, I'll just hide this out and make it nice and big. When we have any board in here, we've got items. Okay, there's some dummy items in here because I've just created it, obviously. But over on the top right-hand corner, within here, we've got various different options within the sort of board options section. And there is actually one in there that says create items via email. Nice and easy, super easy thing to do. So what you've got now is ability to copy the email address, or you can even customize the email address because nobody's going to remember board-665566688888 because that's just crazy. So you could give it a more meaningful name like support or like support at Omnitas demo, or etc. Make it a bit easier to digest. Okay, but I'll just copy that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get Aaron here. Aaron, could you take the email address I'm putting into the audience chat? This is just a demo system, so I'm not too bothered about it going out. I know it's a horrible email address in there, but if Aaron can just throw up his Outlook, just pop a little problem or an issue, and then email it in, and we'll sit here and just see it actually come to light and see. We can actually see what context we can have in here. It's not going to set fields as such. It's not going to have if I had a description column over there, it's not going to kind of do all of that. It's going to create an item on my board. Okay, we'll just hold on. Just give us an update.
I've gone quiet. But yeah, basically, I've just dropped you in an email, so hopefully that should.
Okay, so I'll just give that a quick little refresh. Never demo anything live. Is it stalling somewhere? Is it? Let's go again. Create item via email. copy, email board. Oh, I never demo anything live. Okay, so, well, that it would come into here anyway, so it might be held up in Outlook or something like that. But effectively, it would create the item within the board in here. The item will be called like the subject. You'll have all that information in here, and then you can sort of process and manage the ticket. You can link it to a customer based upon some other information, etc. But absolutely, that's something we can do. Okay.
Okay, we want to come back to this while we're waiting for it to load, and we can answer Mer's question in the meantime. So I'll just repeat the question. I have a master training board for Monday with many items. I have it as templates so that each individual user gets their own board. I used Carl's method for connecting all the items in the template to the master. However, on the master side, I don't have a one-to-one match in the connect columns. Is there a way of getting that without going through every item and connecting them by hand? I assume they mean like individually, each individual item. There will be no new items created.
So Aaron, you got anything on that? So are we talking there about obviously the connect boards column that they got from the master to the high level board to the low level board? It's a one-way connection. So if I look, I can only see all of the tasks. I mean, for me, generally the way to do that would be to drop that column and create a new one. But if I've already got existing boards on there, then we're going to have to reconnect all of those. That's the standard way.
I think just touching on this subject, I think it's something that's come up a lot. And Monday.com has always had this thing where if you want to use the high level, low level board mentality of when you want to roll that up, I think this is the point that Mira was getting to, is that essentially you've got to go and link all of those items from the low level board to the high level board to be able to then get whether it be an overview of the progress, whether it be a sum of the numbers, whatever the case may be. There was that mentality where you've got to go back and you've got to link the right items. Now, Monday doesn't automatically assume you want all of the items connected. It assumes that you want to pick the items you want connected in case there are some that you don't. There is a couple of things with that. So there are things like apps in the third-party apps in the marketplace, such as roll up multiple boards, that does allow that to happen automatically using webhooks within the system. There is also in the roadmap a potential portfolio solution that's being released that will allow you to roll up multiple boards worth of data into a portfolio view that then takes columns of data and rolls that up. That's still being worked on, I believe, but it's somewhere in the roadmap for second or third, I think it's third quarter of this year. But the idea will be is that you'll have a portfolio board at the highest level and you'll choose the projects and then be able to create projects from templates that then roll up certain columns of data. So I'd say that's probably two solutions right now that I can think of that would be almost automated to that extent, but certainly for native functionality that exists right now, it does require a bit of manual labor to get those things linked and rolled up.
Yeah.
So
okay, cool. We're about halfway through our time. So Mur, if you'd like to reach out to us, we can talk about this on a one-to-one basis, but I think we only have about 15 minutes left, so I'm gonna move us along. What other questions do we have? Kim Elliott, do you know if Monday are working on the conversation link to each pulse? When I connect an email thread, there's a lot of space used with signatures, etc., which makes the view look very messy. Okay. So it's like a legibility or a usability issue. Kim, I wonder if you have maybe a screenshot or one example of this.
I think what this is when you've got in the emails and activities inside Monday, and you're bringing conversations from your emails, it includes all of the previous signatures and all that gumph that you get at the bottom of emails, such as if this email wasn't intended for you, blah, blah, blah. Like it makes it quite messy when you're reading conversation chains. And I think Kim's question relates to, is there anything that Monday are announcing or have announced that potentially might tidy up that kind of emails and activities chain view of having a whole section of communication where you'll have an email, then you'll have a signature, then you'll have another email, you might have another signature, or you might have 3 or 4 emails chained together and then 3 or 4 signatures at the bottom. And I think, I don't know what you guys are going to say to this, but in my opinion, it's not something that I know of is actively being worked on by Monday. Certainly it's something that you can suggest a feature request to them on, but I think it's not in anything I've seen in literature for the roadmap. So not at this stage, but we can obviously ask the question and find out. And Kim, I can happily get back to you if I find anything out on that.
It's feedback like this is really important, and this is why Monday kind of moves and develops and grows. Okay, so like you as the users out there, the user experience is all about you and how that sort of information, like it looks messy, so people aren't inclined to want to use it. But if it can be cleaned up, I don't know, it's probably something that is on the roadmap at some point. But feature requests like this, just to improve the UX, this is really valuable from Monday's perspective to understand that. Yeah, it may need clean up. So please, information like that, keep firing it through.
One thing I'll just touch on that Kim also put in the chat. So thanks for contributing so much, Kim. I know she's always got a lot to say, so that's really cool. Yeah, basically, like an idea around this emailing to boards thing, she put in the chat, forms are a good option. And I think that's a very good point, Kim, and it's an absolutely amazing feature within Monday, is the ability to turn the board into a form. And Monday have made it into kind of it's almost like its own roadmap product, where work forms is almost a bit of a byproduct of Monday, almost like. And I think they're working that all the time with the ability to customize the form, to build in conditional questions, to be able to say what is and isn't required. And it's a great way of presenting the information, or somebody submitting the information that is both in and out of. So one of the questions I might put in here that I've had recently, and Lee, you might be able to answer this because I think it's good to mix in some stuff I've had real world, is it possible you've got a board and you've got a work form set up? Can you have multiple forms set up to one board? So can I submit two different versions of a form with different data in that submits into one board? And if so, how would that work?
Yeah, so let's take a Monday board. I don't know if I should show this or bring it up. A Monday board with various lists. I've got 4 questions on that. So an item would be, the first question would be, who are you? Aaron Ripper. Second question is, what's your favorite color? Third question is, if it's red, what sort of shade of red? Anyway, there's various different questions that we have on there. So that is form 1. Okay, so I can create a view, which is form 1 from those particular questions. But maybe if I need to have a different form for a different specific need, but all going through the same board, I just have fields that gathered that information. So there could be questions 4, 5, 6, and 7 already built on the board, or we can actually build it dynamically when we're actually using the form. And then I've got 2 separate forms, but it's based upon the one board. And then we just map the questions to those specific columns. So everything comes in through that board, and depending on what form it comes from or what value it is, it may then be channeled through that same board through something like a group, or giving it a certain status. I can filter it in different ways. So maybe if I go back to the IT service request, maybe I've got a hardware or a software problem. I've got a form. Instead of using the email, I've got a form that says, please submit a ticket. If it's software, then ask these 4 questions here. So then it gets submitted. It goes into the software questions. Different form, maybe for something completely different, which is non-IT related. It may just be, I need to order some pencils. So it's a request form. It's a requesting board. We're only using one of those, but it can be channeled one way. I can use a different form to ask, okay, what type of pencils do you want, etc. Still populating in the same board, but we could then start using views, etc., on that one board to have different lenses of the same thing. So it keeps it nice and simple, and we can actually, give people, whoever needs them, different links to the form, to whichever form we want. It's still going to populate in the same board. So absolutely, we can do that. It's a very common thing that I do as well. Yeah, good question.
Cool. I have just been corrected. Our session is an hour today. I apologize. I think 90% of our webinars, or possibly even 95%, are half an hour. So I misspoke. We have an hour. Aaron?
The other thing I was just going to say, leading on from that point that Lee just made, is, and that's a very good lesson for anybody that's building out Monday from scratch or anything like that. You have to remember that the main table itself is a master data sheet, essentially. It can be as full with data as you need it to be. It can be loads of columns. It can go as wide as the limit allows you to. But the point is that you then create hidden column views or filtered views, or you set permissions and things like that. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people really get lost in, is the fact that they get worried because all of a sudden their main table view has got loads of different questions or forms or fields to fill in, or in your case they're having a column for pencils and type. I think but people get lost in that, and then when they're building boards they go, oh god, I'm gonna have hundreds of columns. That's fine, because at the end of the day, every piece of data you put into Monday is reportable. So it's going to make your reporting rich at the end. It's going to give you more of the data points to pull things through on dashboards. But not only that, you can then filter out stuff, right? So you can hide certain columns, and like the forms you were talking about.
I'm just gonna pause you, Aaron. We have a request from Kim to go on camera. I imagine because Kim wants to demonstrate or show. So I think it'd be great to have some audience engagement. Do you want to take a minute to wrap up and then I'll put Kim on, or do you have?
Yeah, it's just 2 seconds. I mean, I just wanted to highlight the point that when we're talking about this, and when like Lee's just said, if you've got 2 different forms and you want to submit 2 different sets of data to the same board, it's quite simple, because you can set up a filtered view that form leads to.
You can even create that board as well. Like you can, that board is there to just facilitate everything, and then depending on the type, it can move into another work stream somewhere else. And
I've had a really good example of this recently with a client I was working with, where within their project board, they've actually got costings and change control and stuff like this in different groups. But they had different forms for that data to be submitted to the project board. But in the main project view, had all these columns, but in the project view, it had this. In this group, it only had that group and those columns. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, you're able to create those views per sort of need.
The way off really is, how many boards do you want? Like, do you want multiple boards, or do you just want one board that facilitates what you need, and then you can direct it through the workflow somewhere else? It's.
All right, folks, are you happy for me to put Kim on?
Let's do it.
Go for it. Let's
right.
put it.
We love audience engagement.
We love it when Kim comes in.
Okay, I've said yes to Kim, and presumably they'll be on in a minute.
Oh, she's put a cam on.
Kim.
Oh, what a treat!
I'll put us all in the same.
What a treat! What to see.
Okay, here we go. Hello, how's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Are you?
All right, how's it hanging? What do you want to show us today?
To be fair, it was when you were talking with regards to the conversations, and Aaron did actually answer all that. So the minute you add one of the links to that conversation, every time you get a reply, you get the signatures, you get the addresses, and actually trying to read that thread of information, you find it very, very hard, because you still you read one bit and then you scroll, which is the next bit, and actually putting it together. And like you said, going on to the forms were really useful. So we've just currently integrated the sales CRM down in our GTS side, and obviously it's new. That part of it's new to the business. Obviously Monday's not new, but actually making sure that connects to our main work OS, and linking that. We find it really, really useful to use forms, but because it links from our website. So we use it as a contact form on the website, and then it will populate those columns as they come in, and those inquiries then can be moved to different departments on the Monday system.
And have you got one of those forms live on your website at the moment?
Yes, let me see if I can bring it up. If somebody starts talking, then I will find it, and then I can I share it on here?
Yeah, you should be able to. Once you start sharing, I'll then approve it.
I don't think I can see. It doesn't let you when you added as a guest.
I think let's draw it all up, and it's easy to talk.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, darn.
Unfortunately.
Let me see if I can change those permissions. Hang on a second. I'm hoping that I can give you permission. Just bear with me.
Play in picture. Oh, okay. Back to tab. I'm not. I use Teams. That's it.
I love this. Whereabouts on the website is it then? If I
let me just find it.
If you can send us a link to it, we can also
Yeah.
share our screens as well.
That's the open account and have a look. Because I just think it's good for anybody else that's here to see those kind of real world examples and
Yeah,
There's context. You know, we're not just here to bang the drum. You know, people actually use these things.
I was actually working on forms this morning with one of my clients, and he has an initial form which populates a board of leads, let's say, okay, and then he's got extra qualifying questions that he needs in order to mature the lead. So, you know, we workshopped it together, and what he actually wanted to do, his use case was he actually wanted to be able to update with another form that lead. There's apps and tools that you can do and use to kind of do that sort of thing. But what we actually workshopped in the end, because he didn't want to use an external tool, he wanted to do it all natively. So we actually, when a lead got to a certain stage, we sent them a link, right, to another board, which is a form. Basically, we send them a link to another form, which is another board. And then they fill out their name again, their email address, that was key, and then the answer to the question that's the crucial question to move them through to the next stage. They fill that out, and then what I did then is I used the match automation to match it back to that person. There's a connection between these two boards. Then, when that status field effectively changed, because they qualify it now on that board and they change it to hot lead, I used the automation through the mirror. So when the mirrored status changes to hot lead, move this one to hot lead and move it up and pass it through. And then we just get rid of that form entry. And that was great. It worked really well.
I think that's a good one as well. I touched on this when I did a previous webinar. There's a very little known automation in Monday that's change another status to something. And what that basically means is within that automation recipe, you can actually use mirror columns. You can say, when this mirrored status changes to something, change it to something else. And I used it in like a production line thing that I did the other week, which is where if a certain part of the job is done on this other board, you can then say, right, now mark it as the next stage in the journey.
The caveat to that one, so I'll jump in there, is it has to be a single connected mirror. If it's connected to multiple boards, it won't work. But if it's a single board from board A to board B, it works perfect. Yeah.
Which is why I said it works quite well for like production lines, is because it's a job from start to finish, right? And I think that's part of the thing. I know we're waiting for Kim to obviously to send us.
Kim has sent us a link to the contact form on the website.
Yeah, so what I've sent the main website as well, just to show you the different aspects, departments in the business as well. So we've not just got one area. People that don't know who I am and what we do with fire, we do fire protection. So we have the technical. We also have surveying. We produce doors. So it was a case of bringing it all. So what we created was a board with all the columns I needed, but then a status column that actually on the form shows you which department you want to direct that contact at. So when it comes through, it will populate a status column for which department and the questions that they may have.
Yeah.
But sorry, I've just moved downstairs because it was getting a bit noisy in the office.
Okay, no worries. Do you have more? Do you want me to share my screen and show that contact form?
I think it would be great to see.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I will just do that.
And you can fill it. You can actually fill it in for me if you like, and then I can show. Oh no, I won't be able to show you with you. Well, that's a shame.
Okay. How do we want to do this then?
So you can just show how it's connected. So if you go to the Global HSE group, the main website.
So here's the.
Oh, no, that's the global environment. So that's fine. So once you go through the main website, there are about 6 different squares for the different disciplines that we have in the business. One of those disciplines is global building environment. So we go out and look at air and how the environment is affected by construction. So if you go to the top of there. Oh.
Sorry, I'm trying to give a mixed view with you and the screen, but it looks like I can only show myself when I share that.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, so if we go to the top and then
contact.
So that's where I just was.
So it looks a bit big at the moment, but we're trying to look at the actual website and how to sort of make it a little bit different in the background, because obviously we've linked the Monday form.
Yeah.
We then submit it, and then it pre-populates a board with automations on, so people within that discipline then can know that they've got a new lead or inquiry coming from the website, and they can reply to it.
Cool. Yeah, that's very useful. Thank you.
So I've got something very similar just mocked up very quickly on my demo system, so I can see what that looks like on the Monday side. I know it's not the same.
Okay, so Lee, do you want to share your screen and I'll swap over to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kim.
No problem.
Always love a bit of audience participation.
No problem.
Is that sharing? Share. Okay, that's not really sharing. What are we sharing right now? Nothing. My interface seems to have not allowed me to share.
Oh, okay.
There we go. All right, I want to share the contact us page. Okay, so what I've got in here is just a Monday system. I've got a board, which is like this could be like Kim's board over here. So the contact us page, it's got a form view at the top in here, and we've got kind of a representation of what that looks like within what would.
Sorry,
yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's right. It's just popped up. I couldn't see anything.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I couldn't see the screen share. It's fine.
Because I live in Ipswich, we've only just got the internet this week, so it's. Okay, so this is the Monday table, which has got some new contact us page. I've got a form view here, which if anybody's never seen it before, you can click on a plus in here and basically create a brand new form. And then once you've got the form, you could then go and edit the columns. Drop my phone on the floor, edit the columns, and then make it kind of your own form. You can do all sorts of stuff in here, like customize the look and layout and feel and the fonts, etc. with it. And one of the things I really do like, I think, Kim, like what you were talking about there as well, is like maybe you've got a status column to say like what department it is. So in my form here, I haven't got that, but you can actually build forms as you go. So
it's the single one. Yeah, that's the one that does the status. But it saves creating 3 or 4 forms for different departments as well, because you can use the same link.
And I don't know if you know about this as well, but this is a kind of a nice thing that we've got in here. So I'm just going to say like type A, type B, type C. Maybe I need to ask an additional question if it's a certain type. Monday does have like these include conditions. So if it was a type A, no, I don't need to know anything else except for your email. But if it's a type B, I need to know what type of type B, for instance. So we can actually use a condition in here, which is now basically set up a sort of a dynamic view. So if it's type B, then what do I want to know? Well, maybe I want to know what model it is, or how long you've had it, or how many years are on your warranty, or anything like that. So for now, I'm just going to say I just want some text, and this is in here. I'm going to say, well, please explain. Keep it really simple. So now I've got basically a new field which I've made required within my form. So when I publish that now, if I just go and preview it, hopefully you can still see the screen, even though it's just changed. Can you still see the form? Does everybody can see the form?
We can see the link to the form.
Yeah, we can see the link to the form if that's what you need.
So I'll share this tab instead. There we go. So you should be able to see the form again now. Yep. So I can say in here, this is Lee. If it's a type A, nothing happens. But if it's a type B, new field comes out, and I can put some more context into there as well. So I can actually drive people in certain directions. So I don't necessarily have to have several different forms. Maybe I can have one form, which depending on the answer can populate certain fields. That's another way of thinking about it when we're using forms. So, yeah.
I don't know if I've got time very quickly, because I've just realised we've only got about 20 minutes left. But I know Mura's put in the chat that I mentioned the automation earlier about a status affecting another status on a single linked item. She said she didn't hear what I said. So is it all right if I just quickly re-show what I'll share my screen actually and show
Yeah, go for it, Aaron.
this time what I was actually talking about, just for everyone's benefit really. So can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Let me swap you over. There you go.
Perfect. Amazing. So in this instance, I've just put together 2 really rough boards, high level, low level, right? And what I'll effectively do is on my low level, I've got job 1, 2, 3. And on my high level, I've got job 1, 2, 3. I'll just connect those 2 things together so we can see that. So as you can see here, it's now pulled through a status. So what we can effectively do is within the templated ones, because it's not one that you can necessarily have available within like the customizable ones, but there is an option that has when a status changes, change another status to something. And the little known unknown thing, I didn't plan this very well because I've used status twice, but essentially the little known thing that people won't know is that you can actually use mirrored statuses on this. And so what you can do is you can then effectively have a status impact another status. So you can use a mirror column with, it's one of the, I think it's probably one of the only automations where you can actually use mirror columns. I'm saying that right, aren't I, Lee?
Yeah, if you click on the actual mirror option, so it's categorized on the side, and I think there's a few more that's actually come out, but like if you click on the categories on the left-hand side, we've actually got a new category for mirroring, which is really good. So come to the left.
Mirror.
So these are different ones that you've got in here. So like, yeah, that's the one I used today with that other client. So when a status changes, and the difference is, so it'll be like the first one or the second one if you label it right.
I'm just like, I've got no, because I've used the same. There we go. There we go. So if I do that and then I go, okay, change that to done, then effectively, and if I now, obviously, if I change that and then rechange it back to prototype, and it should change that the main status to done.
Yeah.
And like Lee says, there's lots of other options within that sort of suite of automations, of things that you can impact using mirror columns. And so I just wanted to make people aware that it's one of those things that's quite often missed, is that you can effectively have status columns impacting, main item details.
It's good for like that cross department kind of thing. I can't do my job until Aaron's done his. And like, told me that, and great, I've moved on to the next thing. So yeah, cool.
So we have another question this time. Oh, again from Mer, and I love the phrasing here. Very fun. I have been a Monday user for 1 year, and I just added CRM. Are there any automations / tips you can give that will rock my world?
I love that song by Michael Jackson. You know that "Rock My World" is such a good song. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, gotta Google.
Anyway, sorry, Lee. Do you want to? Who wants to take this? Do you want to switch off? Lee is the absolute.
I can see him thinking. I can see the little hands running on the wheel in his brain.
I bow down to Lee when anyone talks to us about CRM. So
I'm trying to think.
Okay, I'll hand over to you.
Sorry, I keep talking over you, but I think I'm trying to think of what rocks my world, and like the one. Even today, this was literally this morning, that way that we've used that cross-border kind of mirrored automation to move something. And we did a few other things there and made it really quite clever, but that's like one that I really love. Now, the match automations, these have been fantastic, because there used to be limitations where we talk about like a project, high level, kind of low level, or even like if you work in the CRM, and if you're using like the enterprise CRM, there's match automations in there which do things like helping to understand like duplicate checking, and that's one that really has rocked my world. So like scenario here is I've got a leads board. Maybe I'll show this as well. I'll bring up a CRM. Do you want to hand over again? I'll just rock this up. Demo.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Super. Just bear with me a second, and I'll love being put on the spot. This is
well, I suppose it's kind of the concept behind this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
The whole idea was to have.
If you want a minute, we can talk amongst ourselves, I suppose.
I'm nearly there.
You're nearly there.
Party now. We've got Kim full time in our webinar. I like this.
I know.
And I've got another question if Lee's not ready.
You go for that, and I'll
Yeah, a quick one while you're prepping. Yeah, sure. What's your question, Kim?
So one of the newer features that Monday have brought out is that you can, when you have your master template, if you make one change in that template, it will change multiple boards. My question to you is, I created our Monday system 3.5 years ago. So at the moment, if I update a board, I have to update every single board because it hasn't got that functionality. The only way I've worked around this is moving one item that has got the new column onto a board that hasn't, and it asks me to map a new column, which is great because it's easier, because then I can move that one to the next board, next one, and it's an easier way. But are we going to have the older Monday users, are we going to have that function where we will have a master template to be able to change that?
I don't, in all honesty, I don't know whether it's going to be, because
Or is there
obviously,
something there, or, you know,
as it currently stands, you're right. You know, if you make any changes to any templates, then any future boards won't be impacted, but any future boards will be impacted, but any previous ones won't be. And the parenting thing, I don't know if it's an additional feature, like it's an adaptation of what already exists, or whether it's going to be a feature that comes in. I would imagine it's an adaptation of what already exists. And I don't want to promise anything, but I would say that it would be a feature enhancement on what is already there, rather than it being a whole new feature rolled out.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on how they're going to do the infrastructure. And so I don't know if it means that templates that you've previously created won't have the feature, then anything you create in the future will.
Yeah.
Something we'll have to, I mean, unless Lee Squared, either one of you knows, you know, the answer to that.
Obviously, it's nice for new users because they can change things, but for people that have had the system for a good few years that have been waiting for this feature, but now we still can't use it.
I'm not 100% sure. Has it been released though? I don't know if it's been released yet.
I don't think it's been released yet. It's planned release throughout 2024. I know that, as and when, not too sure. But yeah, the parent template we're talking about here, aren't we? Where
I've got it I've got it actioned on my system, but I just obviously
It's like a pretty. No, not sure. So we'll know more when we get closer to that time when it's actually released, if it can actually start pulling up. Legacy
older boards, legacy boards.
Yeah, like basically take your template. I'm just saying, just in theory, right? I'm not saying this is exactly how it's going to be, but I hate talking theory like that. But like promote template to parent template sort of thing and start using that. But it's all about that master template that you've originally got. So
the thing is, I could create a new master template and duplicate from that, but then I lose all my history. So that's what I'm really not wanting to do at the moment.
Yes, when you say lose your history, like, we can move items over, but you've lost all the audit logs.
And I audit Monday. Yeah. I audit all the time.
Okay, that's a feature that's not, it's being worked on and developed. So time will tell.
I'd only assume that it's an adaptation of the feature, because that's what they do with things like dependencies, right? They just added to the feature and it got rolled out. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
We'll try and keep to the fixes solutions rather than the whole.
Well, I've filled a couple of minutes then anyway, haven't I? So you can see how I am now.
Yes, thank you, Kim. Shall we?
My screen? I'll just show you this.
Yeah.
So go back to the earlier question. Like, what automations rock my world? It's a bit of both, and it's very similar to what I did earlier on. Is it now sharing?
Yes,
you are visible.
Can you see which screen can you see here?
Leads.
Oh, yeah, you can see. Sorry, I'm looking at the leads. Yeah, so I pick up the Monday CRM. Like, this is one that I really love, and it's just a version of it, but it uses something called match automation. So like when an item is created or when a status changes, for instance, a match automation can take a common reference and review like an item on another board. So say, for instance, if I've got a lead with an email address of liam@email.com, or I've got a contact as well who is also liam@email.com. This is great because what I don't want to do is actually start processing leads that actually already exist and create another version of Liam. So what we're going to do is like create something, match it, and see if it already exists somewhere else. So for instance, if I look at this Donna at email.com here, if I was to create somebody called Donna and then have Donna at email.com. Okay. So what the system's got in the background is it's got a like various different types of match automations in there. I've just realized I just typed it into the wrong column in here. But effectively, if I go into the automations in here, okay, so in here I've got like some basic automations, and this looks like it's been sort of torn down, but we can create automations. And there's 3 special types of automations, and these are the ones that really rock my world. And to find them, you come into your template center, and then you go into the search and you type in match, and you've got 3 variants of this. So the first variant is when a column changes, connect the item where the new value matches this column in another board by this logic. Okay, so basically when something changes, connect it where on this board it matches something else on another board. This is another variant where the column changes, connect this item to another item on another board where this column matches this column. So this is more, I could use the email address as a common reference, and if they match, I'll link them up and connect them through my connect boards column. Another version which is commonly used, and this is great from when I use a form, going back to our forms earlier on, somebody fills out a form, they put in their name, their email address, it creates an item. This automation here basically says when an item is created, connect item A to item B based upon a common reference. In this case is on this board, it's the email address. On the other board, it's the email address, and we join them 2 together. Love these ones because then I don't have to go and search for that contact and go, oh, it's this one, and manually connect it. This just takes care of it for me. That's a really good one that I really like using with match automation. So, yeah.
This is one of my all-time favorite automations, so I'm very happy that you're showing it today. Do we have time for another question? We've got about 10 minutes left. Do you guys want to take another question? Yes? No? Yes?
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I've been muted.
It's a fairly straightforward one that anybody's, I mean, I know there's a few questions in there, but we can obviously cover off with the person that's asked them after the event. But
Sure.
if we've got a fairly sort of easy
We've got
one.
time for just one more question, and then we'll talk about the event we have coming up in June. So we have a question, and that is it possible to mirror sub-item status to other boards, or is that only on the main item level?
I've done a lot of talking. I'll give this to Aaron. Go on, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron, do you want to take this?
This is one that I was hoping you were going to answer yourself, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, in terms of obviously, so this to answer it in kind of 2 parts. The first part is you can obviously roll up to the parent item, so you can roll the sub items detail by going into one of the sub items columns, clicking the 3 dots on the right next to the column name, and then there's show summary on parent, which will actually roll up the details from all the sub items to the parent item. In terms of then connecting sub items to main items on another board, I believe, Lee, that is doable to be able to create a connect board column and mirrors from a sub item to a main item on another board, but not sub item to sub item.
No, exactly that. So yeah, not sub item to sub item, or not yet anyway. But use case for this, right? If I have an opportunities board, and the opportunity is the top level item, maybe then I have sub items which could be my revenue line items. So under an opportunity, I can have product A, product B, product C. So Aaron fills out the opportunity. He wants product A, product B, product C. I could manually put some pricing information into there. I could automate it. But if I've got a product catalog board elsewhere as a kind of a master board with all my products, with the how many there are in stock, I don't want to go into the stock control side of it, but how much it is, what the various different costings, what the various different descriptions are. Or within a sub item, we can create a connected board to that product catalog board. We can then, for instance, we could connect it. So I can say, right, I'm going to add product A, and then go into the connect boards column, click on product A, and then using the mirrors, I can then pull through the pricing, how many, etc., etc. And then I could use formulas to kind of manipulate in the sub item level the actual cost of the total of all the products, which I can then roll up actually into the opportunity to actually say how much is the total deal value for all of these different products. So Sub item to main board, absolutely, yes, we can. Sub item to sub item, not yet. We're not without doing something special. There could be too many sub items. How do we target this at an item on a different board somewhere with a different sub item?
Cool. Thank you, Lee. I know we said we'd only do one more, but I think we have just a little bit of time for this one. So this is a question from Eric. Is there a way to automatically update currencies coming from another site? And this is actually a question I've thought about in detail before. There is a third-party app called Generalcaster that will do this, but I'm not sure that I would recommend this because of security issues. Do you guys have a better solution or a better response for this?
I've done in the past working with things like make.com, so like third-party integration platforms, etc., where you can integrate with certain currency conversion platforms. And I've done something for a client I had in the past where their sales team had opportunities, but because they had salespeople not just in the UK but in the US, etc., their opportunities could be in different currencies, and then what the ability to actually convert it into either US dollars or GBP, whatever the case may be. And you can use things like make.com, etc., to integrate with a third-party currency conversion. I don't know if there's anything in the Monday app framework that will do that. I think there is an app or two, but obviously you just have to be wary that some of the apps push data out to external databases before they bring it back, which is what I think you were saying with Generalcaster is you just have to be wary of the path of your data.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, so I don't, you know, it's down to personal preference and obviously down to each customer based on what they're okay with. But there is alternatives, but I would say it's not anything Monday native you can do. There'll be an app or possibly even third-party integration, which we can help with if anybody's got that kind of inquiry.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Eric, if you'd like to know more about this, you can reach out to us and we'll talk to you individually. Otherwise, it's 5 minutes till, so maybe we can just do a little bit of a, oh, you're welcome, Eric. Happy to be helpful. Cool. So maybe since we have about 5 minutes left, do we want to just plug our event on 4th June a little bit?
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee had something on this himself. Did you have a slide or something prepared, or should we just chat through it?
I have an image for us. If you want me to, I'll put it up.
Yeah.
It's just to obviously let everybody know that's attended or is watching this back that we will be live and in person the 4th of June in London. I guess the details will be up, or we can provide.
Yeah, I'll just share them. Bear with me.
Lee Ingham may want to give us some synopsis about what the event is going to be about and what's going on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great day. So obviously, it's like having a big live webinar, really, isn't it? But it's we invite in our clients and potential, so mix and match of different people that are going to be there, not necessarily actual Monday clients straight away. So it's in London. It's a chance to meet us and talk to us about Monday.com or make.com, because we're going to have a few workshops that are going to be running in there, one focusing on a topic within Monday, one focusing on a topic within Make. You've got the Thomas, our leader, is going to be there and talking about various different things within Monday, including the roadmap and some other thoughts and ideas on just the general sort of ecosphere. We're also there within the workshops, they're going to be kind of hands-on workshops as well. So they could be interactive, where we could be getting to you to do something, but also collaborating with everybody around there, just getting ideas. But I find them really, really valuable. I really enjoyed the last one we did last time, and again in the same venue. What else do we do there? So, and it was also a chance to actually book some time with consultants like myself, Lee, and Aaron, actually sit down with us, and whilst we're doing that kind of that meet and greet and the mingling and that sort of thing, actually take some time to come sit down with us and talk to us about your use case. If you're interested in buying Monday, if you're already an existing customer in Monday and just wanted some sort of face-to-face, quick one-to-one time, we've got that ability to do that as well. So it's just a great event, really nice venue, really nice views over London. yeah, I look forward to seeing anybody there.
And these guys look better in the flesh as well.
Yeah, I'm like,
Thank you, Kim. That's very kind.
That was a compliment, that was.
No, I accept it, and I'm very grateful of that.
To be fair, can I just interject there, just to help your numbers? I actually attended one last year, and it was amazing. It was really nice to meet everybody in the flesh and have some chats, even with other guys from different companies. And I should be coming to the June one, but unfortunately I can't. So it'll have to be the August one. I believe you've got one in August coming. But no, it's an amazing event. So you should all make an effort and go down there and meet the guys.
Thank you.
Can you believe that we're not paying Kim to be here?
I know.
Sponsored by Global HSA.
In the web.
Yeah. I think the thing I'll just say quickly to touch on that point is it's one of those rare opportunities that you get to actually speak to people face to face about the problems. But also, I think the thing that I love about those kind of events that I've always seen is the mixture of people not using Monday or Make or whatever the case may be, conversing with people that do and sharing what experiences and everything.
One thing I found really, really interesting was actually listening to the speakers from actually how they use Monday in their company. I'm so used to using Monday in a certain way, but then when you look at the user cases and see how other companies use it, it gives you more ideas. So if you are already a Monday user, that is really beneficial from the event.
Yes. Cool.
All right.
Well,
we ended there then, folks.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And thank you to our speakers for providing so much interesting information. And Kim, thank you for your emotional and logistical support.
No problem.
I hope we can see you again sometime soon, huh?
Yeah, no problem. It'll be great.
All right.
Guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.